That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Yeah. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
What's going on, one kid? You do it because I sound funny because I got a sinus thing going on.
Pete's got a sinus thing going on. Ben's not in the studio tonight. We got a great episode for you. Welcome back to the OneCast. Before we get rolling, we have a great guest to bring you. Head on over to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word at checkout. Get your hands on those snagless jigs, weedless nets, soft plastics, and all that merch over there. Support them as they've supported the show since day zero. Also, head on over to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast, just like I said before, and get your hands on that UPF gear. Stay protected from those UV rays. Head on over to your Play Store, whether that's the Google Play, the Apple, whatever, and download the Deep Dive app. Deep Dive is going to get you guys set up for fishing a new body of water or an existing body of water with all those different features such as the inflow, outflow, wind direction, water clarity, bait tools, best places to start on the lake, all those different features. Deep Dive's been supporting the OneCast, so head on over there and get that year-long subscription. And then use the link in the description that Pete always drops in there nice and kindly for you to get your hands on the Hobie eyewear. They got the new whole float frames. And let me tell you right now, you need to get your hands on those Sightmaster Pluses because they're going to help you guys look through the water and see those fish on the bed. So make sure you support Hobie because they're awesome. And get those floating frames, man. You'll never lose another pair in the water again. And lastly, where do they need to go, Pete?
Yeah, if you're looking for a home or property in central North Carolina, make sure you holler at Terry Carpenter, licensed realtor with Walson something. It's man,
it's on your hat.
It is.
Caldwell
Just look at my hat. Coldwell Banker. Howard Perry and Walson. I don't know why I like to do the last one first. You think I would have this down? We're professionals here. But yeah, make sure you hit up to Uncle Terry, as I like Chelsea and I call him. He'll get you squared away with that home or property that you're looking for in central North Carolina. For all of our active duty members listening, PCS season is coming.
It is.
If you need to buy or sell in the Raleigh area, if you're coming to Bragg or what's the Air Force Seymour Johnson or anywhere close by and you need a home, hit up Terry. You can get him at carpentert@hpw.com or his link tree is in our link tree. It's a link tree inception. And you can get to him there. So
that 4x4 realtor, baby.
That's right. 4x4 realtor on Insta.
Uncle Terry's a bass angler. He's going to get you squared away. Man, what's going on in the bass fishing world right now?
Hartwell wrapped up.
Yep.
Paul Marks won that one. So another rookie winning a blue trophy.
Yep.
Looked like it was a pretty fun week. There was a lot of good things said about Paul. So sounds like he's well received in the elite community and everybody really respects him. And I don't know the kid at all or guy. I don't even know how old he is. He might be 40. I don't know.
No, he's a little bit younger than 40, but he did a great job. And, him and Drew Cook were going head to head.
Yep.
Randy Howell was leading after day one. He dropped like 7.5 or 7 3/4 on him, but his weight kind of tapered off day 2, 3, and 4. Paul Marks and Drew Cook were going head to head. Drew Cook was doing what he does best, which was sight fishing him on the bed, and Paul was offshore, I think, working that forward-facing sonar deal, and it really came down to the two of them. So that was a cool event to see. Hartwell, Hartwell's, I don't know, man. I feel like Hartwell's kind of on a downswing right now. I'm not really sure, but it's
that's like the normal Hartwell bag.
Yeah, last year with the MPFL, there was a lot of sickly-looking bass. I'm not sure if that had any effect.
Different time of year, too.
Different time of year. Yep. Definitely. Locally, I want to give a shout out to our buddy Seth Ellis, who fishes the MPFL. He won one of the Piedmont Bass Classics on Sunday on Falls Lake. Yep. So local hammer putting it to him, fishing them all off the bed. He had like 22 pounds. And then
he's like a ball peen hammer.
He is.
Love you, Seth.
And then the Big Bass Bash out of Kerr Lake, or Bugs Island, as we like to call it.
Shocking who won that one.
Shocking. Tyler Trent won that one with a bass that was over 6 pounds, and so he cashed an $11,000 payday. Pretty ridiculous. And then we had a derby this past weekend. So
on Jordan.
Yep, on Jordan Lake. And we had a little over 20 pounds. and had a really good game plan and came in third. Congratulations to the winners that dropped a 24-pound bag. And then this guys that came in second, they had a little over 20 pounds. And, we had 3 fish expire on us, so it dropped our weight a little bit. But overall, it was a great derby. Pretty good payday. And, yeah, man, looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. June 29th, Jordan Lake cleanup with Hobie Eyewear. Shoot us a DM if you want details. Keep your eye on our socials and Hobie's. There'll be more stuff coming out. Got a lot of giveaways, a lot of cool things. That is in conjunction with, he will not be here, but Carl Jochimson does his Fear My Heart Lake cleanup down there in Tennessee. So he's getting Hobie, who's one of his sponsors, to try to set it up all over the country. So we're partnering with Hobie Eyewear to get one rolling here in the Raleigh area on Jordan Lake. That's June 29th. It is a Sunday. It's going to be a cool day. We'll have a bunch of boats and kayaks and people and working on some other cool stuff. So last but not least, the last kind of housekeeping thing is this is dropping Thursday, the 1st of May. Tomorrow, Elevate Outdoors grand opening, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Sanford. We'll be there all day Friday. Unless we do just Friday. And then we'll all be there all day Saturday. That's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Elevate Outdoors, 1600 Westover Drive in Sanford, North Carolina. So make sure you come hang out. Going to be a bunch of raffles. We will have a pair of Hobies to give away.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come by and see us, we'll have a way for you to sign up to win a pair of Hobie eyewear. So make sure you come hang out, talk fishing, bunch of pros, bunch of cool guys. We're there, we're like the bestest. I don't know. You coming over, Dana?
Probably not. Just because my work schedule is absolutely
I didn't know
ridiculous.
if they had set anything up with you to come over and talk.
No, I'm always in the background somewhere doing
That's
something.
right.
I'm not. I feel like I've been in the front too much, so I'd like to get in the back.
I hear that. Well, without further ado, Captain Dana Tabarini. I'll say your name different every time.
That's it. No, you got it right.
So Dana's joining us. He's got a bunch of stuff he wants to talk about in the saltwater world, which we talk about all the drama in bass fishing. It's equal in the saltwater world, except it seems to be more state driven, government driven. And then he wouldn't give me the juice, but he is installed forward facing for his trout and red fishing, and he had some stuff he want to talk about with that. So Dana, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody? Let them know who you are, what you do.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Captain Dana Tabarini with Reel to Reel Fishing. It's funny because my introductions have changed over the years to where I used to be like, oh, I'm this man, I'm just another average trout guy, man. That's who I am. I like to catch fish. I like to put people on fish. I like to have a good time. I started putting people on fish, became a charter captain 5 years ago. So I met my first, and my dog is going
Your
nuts.
dog just doesn't believe anything you're saying right
No,
now.
she's like, he's full of it. No, 5 years now, so I'm just now re-upping for the first time with my captain's license, and it's been an interesting journey. I've really liked it. What I've found out is catching fish is not as hard as teaching people to catch fish. Obviously, that's a really, really complicated thing. But along the way, I've learned a lot about not only myself, but about the community at large. I've also found out that no matter how big you get in your said community, there's a million communities. So you're nobody. Right back to it. So, and honestly, that I think that's a freeing concept, because as soon as you get a big head about your accomplishments or your successes, you look down the street and there's a guy who bass fishes and he's getting paid on the tournament level, and you're like what was I bragging about, dude? What was this all about? So, but no, I've really enjoyed this journey. I started a podcast. Matter of fact, I'm in my podcast room now, so if we want to make it look legit, I can just
there you go,
do like this the whole time. But no, I seriously, I just love talking about fishing. I think that's really why the podcast started. There's been several iterations of how I wanted to do it, and how I wanted my charter life to be. During the process of becoming a charter captain, I work at a car dealership. I used to work in the service department. I was a writer. And then I was promoted over to the finance department. And for anybody who knows the car business, the finance guy is the first in, last out. So I'm there 11 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week. And I've kind of backed off on how many trips I run, unless it's something I'm super confident in, like without a doubt, I can go put you on these fish. No questions asked. If it's a search and rescue kind of mission, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that to clients. So like 2025 is the year of me working hard, pushing the podcast harder. I'll probably do a lot of old drum trips. Pete, you and your wife came on one of those. Those are a lot of fun with Jay Beaver. That was a good time. It's just an amazing beast when you catch it. So that's kind of been like my 25. That's my focus this year. I'm close to retiring. I say close. 7 years, 5 years, something like that, hopefully. And then I'll start guiding full time. So I'll have a good time doing that. But I've met a lot of good people along the way, like you guys, and I've met a lot of drama along the way, a lot of stuff that's kind of disheartening, but you got to take it with a grain of salt and then understand that, you're nobody in this business, even if you're somebody. Doesn't matter whether you're Gerald Swindle or whether you're, kid down the street with a crappy rod. It doesn't matter. We're all just humans. So
that's right.
That's kind of how I've looked at it lately. So, but yeah, the bass fishing world is something that I tried to get into as a kid and quickly figured out I did not have the technique for bass fishing. I do now. I didn't then. And really what it was is you can only do so much with a Zebco 808.
That's right.
There's really only so much you can do. But we tried, which was the cool thing. And down here in our brackish water, if you can see behind me, I know it's flipped, but that's the Neuse River and the Pamlico River. I fish all of that, every bit of that. That's why I had it made. It just kind of commemorates.
Do you have your waypoints on there?
No.
Oh,
no.
I was going to say, zoom in a little bit.
yeah. Hey, as Captain Ashley King says, for $500 and 4 hours, I can show you better than I can tell you.
There you go. I like that. That's a good sales pitch. Does
awesome.
That come with a warranty extended?
It does. No. One fish guaranteed.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you're kind of getting into it. Did you grow up in North Carolina?
Yeah, right here in New Bern. I grew up in Bridgeton, North Carolina.
So you're home. Yeah,
this is my home. I mean, I left, joined the Navy, so that might be a little bit more background. That might be interesting, maybe not.
Well, I mean, you spent your whole life on the water, it sounds like.
Yeah, 12 years in the Navy. That's kind of where I cut my teeth on as far as, the nautical side of a captain's license. We often think captain's license like we're all captains. We're not. We're operators. You're an operator of an uninspected passenger vessel up to 6 people. For the rest of them in the sporty world, those are inspected vessels. You've got masters. You've got all kinds of different levels of what you can do with a maritime license. But the term captain gets thrown around, and I know I do it too. I mean, it just says it right on the screen, Captain Dana. I typed it in out of habit, but we're operators. Yeah, we're all operators of uninspected passenger vessels. And my experience with navigating water came from 12 years in the Navy. Started out as a bosun's mate, so I literally drove the ship. But yeah, I mean, that luckily, being able to be near the water, no matter what coast I was on, East Coast or West Coast, I was always fishing at some point. So I grew up here in New Bern, fished the Neuse, fished down towards where I took Pete, old drum fishing. That's an area, Dawson's Creek, that area, very brackish, catching puppy drum, catching speckled trout, catching flounder. So yeah, there's a lot of this area kind of just taught me along the way. I like to say I learned things along the way, but really what happens is you get educated by your surroundings. You get educated by what works and what doesn't work. Yeah. So I can't teach myself how to do something, but I can sure learn how not to do it the next time or how to recreate what worked at that point. So, but yeah, the love for the water started at a very young age. We were off and down in Atlantic Beach, Emerald Isle, somewhere along the coast at a fishing pier, catching sea mullet at 2:00 in the morning, learning how to catch Spanish mackerel, running trolley rigs for king mackerel, just doing anything but being on a device or in front of a television, which I kind of wish that was still the case, but we're all in the social media, Instagram, Facebook world, it's just part of life now. We got to deal with it. And I get that, but there definitely was a different time growing up, where we went outside. I mean, it was nothing for me to hop on a bike with a backpack and a fishing rod and go 10 miles to go fish somewhere and then come back after the street lights came on and nobody freaked out. It was just that kind of community. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, at a young age, when you were fishing and you talked about the water, the conditions, the surroundings, educating you, one of the things so I've went on a few saltwater trips and stuff like that. And a buddy of mine who used to run trips out of Southport, told me one time, he goes, I can definitely tell a bass angler when they're on my boat, right? Cause they get excited about every single fish catch. And, but every single time cause you're like, in the bass fishing world, you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to catch a bass today. But so I was down there in Southport, this is a couple of years ago, and we wore them out, but every single time I caught something, it was different and it looked like it could kill me. And so I want to talk about you getting educated at a young age. Was there ever a time that you caught something you were like, I don't know what this is, but I got to get it off the hook? Did it educate you?
Yeah, very quickly. The first would have been a bluefish. I actually have a scar. You can't see it, but there's a rectangular shaped scar right there. I've got, and I was probably 10, 12 years old, and I'm wiggling this before gotcha plugs, or before maybe gotcha plugs existed. I just couldn't afford them. We built them out of McDonald's straws and treble hooks and a little, like, what's the little bullet weight? Tiny bullet weight. So that's what we would use that and create a gotcha plug. And you catch Spanish mackerel and you catch bluefish and whatever's out there. So if you know anything about a bluefish, I don't. Okay, so a bluefish is like the chicken of the sea, but it's also chicken with really sharp teeth. So okay. Every large pelagic fish in the ocean eats bluefish, but bluefish eats everything else. Like, they do not care. Yeah, they're just, and I mean, it's kind of like a Pac-Man game. We didn't, thankfully I kept Pete off of those in that old drum trip, but it got pretty gnarly there a few weeks during old drum season last year, where I was going through like 40 rigs a day with bluefish eating it to pieces. So anyway, the fish educated me on not putting my hand in that fish's mouth. I tried to get the hook off and he bit and would not let go and took a chunk of, it was what it was. But on the freshwater side, because, here in New Bern, we have this wonderful estuary where you can be trout fishing and catch largemouth bass.
Yeah.
My largest bass to date is just over 5 pounds, and I caught it targeting speckled trout with a mirror lure. So, but the fish that kind of educated me a little bit on what can be lurking under the water, that would be a bowfin.
Blackfish.
Yes.
Right. And that is, in my opinion, one of the most angriest fish in the water. Like, something in the DNA of a bowfin, in it, like when it was created, God said, "Thou shalt be pissed off," and put it in the water, and that was it. So, but I then find out much later, at an older age, that there are guys that devote their whole lives to catching bowfin. And we're out here catching 28 and 30-inch bowfin, like trash fish. Like, man, get out of here. What is this, And snakeheads. I haven't caught one of those, I think, in a long, long time, but that wasn't even in this state. But yeah, man, you learn very quickly. I won't get in the water, whether it's the ocean, the river, I ain't getting in. No,
because you
thanks.
know what lives there, and then you
I-
also don't know what lives there.
Well, you ever seen Lake Placid? Yeah, not
Yes.
happening, bro.
Yeah.
It's just
fair.
I don't know if it's fear or respect. I like to say it's respect because that's the man
Yeah.
that I respect.
It's respect.
I am
Respect the fear
terrified of what will bite you. So
100%.
Plus up here in this brackish water, we have bull sharks. So, people say, oh, they don't come up there. Oh, yes, they do.
Oh, yeah, they do.
I watch these guys with their release videos, and I'm guilty of it. The big drum. Not anymore. I taught Pete how to throw him back last year. Just torpedo him head first. If a shark gets him, great. It didn't get you, so that's okay.
Oh, is that how you have to properly release a saltwater fish?
The big red drum, you had to give her a 1, 2, 3, and then heave her in there so it shot like a torpedo. You can't revive them because you're likely to lose a hand.
Oh,
yeah, it could easily happen.
Because everything eats redfish too. I've learned.
yeah, man. I mean, I've seen videos where half of a red comes up, and the half that came up was 30 inches. So you're talking about a 50+ inch redfish. What eats a 50+ inch redfish? Probably something really big like a shark. So I just don't play with those. And just imagine, you go to the gym and you work out and lactic acid gets built up in your muscles and you feel that burn. Well, those fish have a very similar process. And depending on the size tackle you use, they could get really, really tired. And, when you throw them back head first and their face hits the water and that water rushes in, it's almost instantaneous. They just take off. So I've never had one that I threw back that way come up floating somewhere. I have seen one that was in the 35 to 40 inch range that we did the tail waggle and, oh, okay, look, it's so beautiful. He swam away. And then you look 20 yards down, he's kind of just sitting there like, oh, God, dude, like that was rough. So we went back over, I netted him and then threw him in and he was gone. So he was fine. But
there's no fizz in a res fish.
Yeah.
You don't fizz them, right? You just blast them in the face with water?
I just take them literally, like if this is the head, and I just throw them like that. Head first. They're in plenty of water where we're catching them. They'll take off. They'll be fine. Little reds, you don't usually have that problem. When I say little reds, anything under 30 inches, 27, 28, 29, those will swim away just fine, the smaller ones. But the big ones, the really old ones, which is why we call them old drum here, you catch a 48-inch redfish. That thing is probably 30 years old. That's a really old fish.
Wow.
I like to give it that respect of here. Let me throw you back in the water and let you get on along your way. So
can't remember what that one I caught with you. It was 46 or 48.
It was large.
Yeah, it was big.
It was large.
Yeah, I saw that. I was instantly jealous because I know redfish don't have teeth. I'm not scared of those fish. I'm scared of every other fish that lives in the salt.
When that thing's gigantic head comes up after you fought it for like 5 minutes, and you're like, good. You think it's 3,000 pounds.
I think fishing in general, the outdoors, man, like we respect the outdoors differently than other people. I'm not saying we're on a different level or it's a different category, but when you know what's swimming around and you know how much you treasure catching one of those 48-inch redfish going around in the water, like you respect nature a little bit differently.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
It's 100%. I mean, you learned with the bluefish, like, oh, don't stick my hand in there,
Yeah.
I think one of the nastiest creatures, and I always like to get people's like stories on like what did you learn? Like for me, it's like I learned what a lamprey was because I'm from Michigan. Pete's up there in the Great Lakes region too. A lamprey is the nastiest creature I think that's ever been created on the face of the earth. It looks like something out of a movie like Tremors or something. And I don't understand how that exists on the planet. But I don't have a lot of experience in the salt and stuff like that. So appreciate you breaking down that education with the bluefish. I did want to ask, after you got done with your time in the Navy, and thank you for your service, by the way, what got you into the car deal? Or is that did you do that as soon as you got back from the Navy?
That was an accident.
No pun intended.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
No, literally, he crashed into the dealership. They're like, "You want a job, boy?"
I had to work it off. Yeah. No, so when you leave when you leave an organization like the military, no matter what branch it is, there's a big hole that will never be filled. There's a way they do things. It's not for profit organization, so obviously money was never an issue. We just fixed stuff, and that's how it worked, you know. But there was a very structured way of living, and if you don't retire from it, if you do like 4 years, you learn a little bit. You're, you know, okay, you were in the military, thanks for that. No shade on those guys. You served, I appreciate you. But when you get to that 8-year, 9-year, 10-year, 11-year, like I did 12 years, and there's a way of life that you get used to that once you transition out into civilian life, you just don't understand people in general. Like you look at people like, are you serious right now? You're 10 minutes late again because of traffic, because you didn't learn from the previous 7 times you were late to set your alarm 10 minutes earlier. It's really not a complicated process. To me, it wasn't. So I really kind of struggled where to fit in a job, you know. I always performed well. I always performed at a high level, but it just got to the point where it was like, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, I didn't do this. And then I left. When I got out of the military, I was in Southern California. I ran a window and door company with a family that I knew. The housing bubble was about to start, so I moved home, kind of missed the whole crash of California back in 2008, 2007. So really just kind of bounced around a little bit, trying to find out what I wanted to do. And ironically enough, I finished my degree, and my degree is in religion. Go figure. So I am a believer. I'm probably more like Saul than Paul, just so you know. Way more like Saul. I can identify with him and David very much. So, I feel like that's kind of when my life really transitioned. I finished that degree and started working at a church, and it got kind of weird behind the scenes. Anytime you get involved in a behind the scenes of an emotionally ran outfit, which churches are, it got kind of complicated. So we ended up parting ways, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I called a buddy who was a painter, and I said, hey man, you got something I can do? Can I come work for you for a little while until I figure out what I'm going to do? And he was like, yeah, man, we'll handle that. And next thing I know, I get a call from the guy who ran the car dealership, who was kind of a mutual friend. And he said, look, I got a position for you. Come check it out. And now I've been there over 7 years. So,
wow.
I enjoy it. It's taxing on the psyche. It's taxing on your time. But, I'm good at it. I never thought I would be, but apparently having the gift of gab at a car dealership is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I was always mechanically inclined. So when I started in the service department, I really kind of understood what was going on. I wouldn't just say, hey, by the way, your water pump's leaking. Well, how did that happen? Water came out of it. I don't know, so I actually understood, hey, this is a rotating device that the interior sealed has, whatever. Anyway. And now on the finance side, understanding processes and procedures, that's where the military thing comes into play. If you can follow processes, procedures, and repeat it over and over and over, you can be a good finance guy. It's really not too complicated. So, but it's a rewarding job. I work with a really good group of guys. So shout out Toyota New Bern. You guys are awesome. Thank you for keeping me for the past 7 years. Hopefully this could be the only dealership that I ever work at. Don't want to go work anywhere else. I'm happy right where I'm at. So, yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I like to hear that. That we have a huge veteran and active duty community that listens to this show. And it's one of those things, like everybody takes their own path when they get out of the military, whether or not they transition out or they retire out or whatever the case may be. And everyone's story is different. So I think that may help a lot of people. Because at the end of the day, like we're all cut from a different cloth, and a lot of times guys have no idea what they want to do when they get out. So that's important. It's an important message that you have for them. And then so throughout this journey, you decided I'm just gonna buy this awesome boat and take people saltwater fishing, or what?
So one of the things I can say for sure about me is, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen.
You can't give me a brand new Toyota from that dealership.
That's a good one. No, it's good. I applaud the effort, but I assure
you're welcome.
That one may be out of my range. But no, when someone challenges me to, or says that oh, you can't do that, or you can't do this, or that's not possible, or this is not possible. Man, I'm from the military, bro. We can do anything. I promise you. We can handle business. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, whatever. We can handle business. So put the challenge in front of me, and we'll do it. I always wanted to take people fishing. I thought I wanted to do it because, actually, let's retract that statement. I wanted to do it because I grew up watching some guides and the attention they got, and what was initially, I think, a very selfish motivation then became a very outward motivation. Like, the first time you put a kid on a fish, you learn that it's not about how good you were at it, but about the joy on their face. So it's way different concept now. And that's only in 5 years. So, but I grew up fishing. I'm good enough at it. I'm not going to say I'm the best. I'm just as good as anybody else out there on any given day. I've got, citations on my wall too. I got a bunch of them over there. We've all caught fish. But along the way, I said, I want to take people fishing. I think I want to be a charter captain. The navigation side of it, the school side is going to be very easy. My sea time from the Navy, carried over, so that wasn't a big deal. But to truly, for anybody who wants to be one, if you really, really, really want to be a charter captain, please follow your dream. But please be sure you're ready for it, because it is one of the most challenging things you can do. It can be easy to take people out and just run them through the gambit, and hopefully you catch a fish and hopefully you don't. But there's days when I've got a plan A, B, C, and then D, E, F, and G didn't work out. Now I'm on plan H, and it's really tough. But along the way, I decided I want to be a charter captain. Went through the school, got the boat, got the license, got everything I needed to do. Started taking people fishing, and then COVID hit, and next thing you know, everybody wants to fish. Not only in the aspect of buying their own boat, but they want to come hop on and learn what you do and how you do it. So, I would say if you're going to be successful at it, you need to spend whatever estuary you're in. You need to spend 5 good years of really grinding out 100+ days on the water, because you're going to learn things about your estuary that change every year. There's a time period when everything's kind of the same. The redfish kind of show up at the same time. The bluefish kind of show up at the same time. Trout kind of show up at the same time. But, there are so many different factors that go into putting people on fish that, I didn't know that 5 years ago. And I think now, as I'm older and more mature, I think now I realize, like, maybe I shouldn't have even been running charters at that point. But someone told me that I couldn't do it. And that was the spark that lit the fire. And I was like, oh no, I'm definitely going to do it now. Now that you said,
who told you couldn't do it?
The guy that hired me at Toyota New Bern. And it wasn't never. And it wasn't that you can't do it, like you're not allowed. It was more like, well, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And I was like, no shizzle, my nizzle. Like, I'm gonna go do it. So, I'm trying to keep it PG here. So, but I was pretty hot, and I was like, you know what? Now I'm gonna do it. Even to the point where my wife was like, you want to do what? And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, dog. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I'm doing it. I don't care. So anyway, I decided I was going to do it, went through the class, and got my butt kicked the first probably 2 years of running charters. But I also surrounded myself with just like anything else in life. You want to be a good follower of Jesus, you want to be a good disciple, you better surround yourself with some good men, period. If you want to be a good angler, you better surround yourself with anglers that are better than you. If you're the best angler in your group, you're in the wrong group. You need to find another group. Go find some guys that whoop you every single day. You will get an education quick. So at the beginning, I had and still do Ben Ricks, Kevin Doerr, Ashley King. Those are three not only really close friends, like they're like family to me, and they kind of help me on the river, not so much in like, go here, throw this, catch this, but more like that motivation of, when you can really be honest and go, hey man, I got a trip tomorrow and I haven't been on the water in 5 days and I'm kind of nervous. And Kevin, who is the most positive of all, he's like, man, just do what you know. Do what you know, and you can't fail. And he, really super supportive. Ashley King, he's kind of the comedian. Ashley King has never met a stranger. He tells the best jokes in the world. We've had a bunch of really good times. And then, of course, Ben Ricks he's like the gentle giant. Really big guy, tall, speaks with authority. But that's the original three that I surrounded myself with. And I would say, not only made me a better angler, better captain, but a better person. And I'll forever be in their debt for it. So, but I can get off on a tangent on that. So sorry guys, but that's definitely, I think.
Don't be sorry. I think that kind of leads us, and I know Pete's kind of sitting back, but it sounds like he's like struggling over here with a sinus deal.
Yeah, you're good.
I thought he was crying. I thought the story was touching.
Well, he cries a lot. It's all right though. I keep him. He's giving me some sort of hand and arm signal over here. But you talked about basically like what we did in the military, right? Like I'm retiring the 31st of October. I spent over 20 years in the Army.
Oh yeah.
And I can tell you one of the things that I learned quickly is finding a mentor that you can trust is extremely important in the military. No doubt. And that person may not be in the military. That person just may be someone else that you just trust in life, right? And then in the fishing world, it's really hard to find those people. And here's why. Because most people don't want to tell you anything that's going to give you a competitive advantage over them, whether or not that's in the tournament side of the house or the guide service side of the house, because they want to win those tournaments and they want to win those customers, right? So if you found 3 individuals that you have the utmost confidence in, that you can share information and that are going to help you, to me, man, you found a gold mine, right?
Well, that's kind of the key is everybody thinks that a network has to do with telling each other where fish are. That is the least helpful thing in a network. 3 guys that tell you where fish are can only tell you where fish are. They can't tell you anything else. They can't tell you, hey, by the way, the trout are sitting on the upriver side of this structure and they're sitting in current and they're only coming out to this secondary ledge and they won't go past it. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that motivation that's at a guttural level, like, hey man, you can handle this kind of pressure. You can do this. You can do that.
Sure.
The networking is, it's a sidebar. You do have that kind of that, hey, by the way, the red, really it's gotten to the point now where when we call each other, any of us, and my circle has kind of grown. I thought it was way bigger. And what I figured out quickly is that those on those outer fringes, they come and go. They're, you can't really count on those. Those are people that just kind of come and go. And, maybe they're here for a good time or a short time or no time or whatever the case is. But that core group, our phone conversations are no longer like, hey man, they're in the stumps at this such and such a place. Now it's like, hey, are they on the south side of the river or the north side of the river? Oh, they're on the south side. Cool. And then you go out there and now you've got 15 miles of bank to work and go find them. But your experience knows where to go. So my core group, Ashley, Kevin, Ben, expanded quite a bit. Gunny B Outdoors, that's Brad Smith. Fishtails Charters, that's Travis Sparks. Patrick and Jake Geary, those two guys right there are probably two of the best captains that I know. And one of them, you don't even know he's a captain. That's Patrick. And he is low-key, quiet, and deadly on the water, super deadly on the water. And then Jake is, he's the ECU guy, played football. He's down there. He's got a TikTok channel that exploded. He's doing all the things, but is the most humble person I've ever met in my life. Like, he is super humble, will help you out with anything, even to the point where, bonita fishing. I ran a couple of bonita charters, and he's like, man, come on, I'll show you the ropes a couple of years ago. It's not something that I didn't think I could do, but it's always, nice to jump on a boat and go, let me see how you do it. And then if that works out and it's something that fits kind of in my style, then I can go repeat that and enjoy it. So two of the biggest additions in this mentor group of people that I have would be Ricky Kellum and Bud Bishop. Bud Bishop is a little younger than me, in mid-30s, I think, but super nice guy, super helpful. 300 days on the water. I mean, no joke about the guy on the Pathfinder. I remember, that guy was a jerk, but no, legit, Bud is 300 days on the water with that 300 trips on the water, not just 300 days.
Wow.
And then Ricky Kellum, the speckled specialist, anybody who trout fishes in Eastern North Carolina, if you don't know Ricky Kellum, then you don't know trout fishing.
You don't trout fish if you don't know Ricky Kellum.
That's just my opinion. Yeah.
I don't even trout fish, and I know Ricky Kellum.
Yeah, and he's super humble. He taught me the biggest piece of advice to catching big trout, and I laugh about it. I tell this story. I've probably told it 100 times. I've told it at every casting event, and it will be on the tip of my tongue every time I talk about him. He said, if you want to catch big trout, you got to be where they're at. And it was the biggest statement that changed how I approach going after big fish. I learned, and when I first heard it, I was like, oh, you got to be where they're at. Okay. And then once I started really establishing patterns of these bigger fish, and I haven't even broke the 30-inch mark. As a matter of fact, I barely broke the 27 mark. I'm at 27 and a half. That's my largest trout ever. The largest client trout was 28 inches, which was a 9-year-old kid. That was a huge fish. The reason why that one's on the wall is because I caught 3 26-inch trout back to back to back. To me, that was a stupendous day. I've probably caught more 26-inch fish than, trout than I could possibly ever fathom. But those guys, that consortium of different personalities, different ways of targeting fish. You learn off of fishing with each other. You talk trash, but it's not the kind of trash like I'm better than you, but like it's camaraderie trash, and you got to have that, But yeah, that competitive edge, that can be what drives you. It can also be what will be your downfall.
Sure.
If you're not careful and you go from being confident to cocky, then arrogant, and then to a-hole. Like that's the ladder. And if you're not careful and you don't stop at the right rung, you'll end up too high. And there's only one way to go when you're up that high, and that's down.
And that's down. That's down. No, you're absolutely right, Dana. We see that a lot, and we're gonna definitely get into, because everything you've been talking about, from mentorship to that challenge of saying like you can't do this or you're probably not going to succeed, and then you do, and that network of good people that build your confidence, right? We're all human beings, and so like that that helps us just be a better human when somebody else is behind us saying, you can do this, bro. You can find those fish, right? Yeah, you got to catch. I want to catch the biggest trout. Yeah, well, you got to know where they're at. You got to be where they're at. Okay, yep, 10-4, I got it.
Yep.
We're gonna dive into some of the, because it's not all bells and whistles. It's not all rainbows, right? It's not all hugs and kisses. There's a lot of drama involved in it. But I'll tell you too, over here in the Piedmont region where Pete and I are at, we're not native to here. We got a very small circle of guys that we can, share information, but it really does not. It really hasn't turned into that, like, hey, where are all the fish on the bed? Or hey, what's the best lure you're throwing at them? Or hey, it's like, dude, you know how to find fish, so go out there and do it and put them in the boat.
Right.
Put 5 in the boat, right? Like, that is really what our group texts have turned into.
Yep.
Just like you were talking about. It's like, hey, lick your wounds, man. Like, you don't always catch them, right? Lick your wounds, bounce back, and do better next time, and don't make the same mistake twice, because if you do, then you're insane, right? So those kinds of things, that's how our network has developed. However, and we've done a pretty good job on our show about it, not really diving a lot into like the bass fishing drama, because you can't go anywhere in bass fishing without seeing the drama,
without tripping over some kind
without
of drama.
tripping over forward fishing sonar. But let's dive into the saltiness of the salt world.
Oh man. So, oh my God.
You like that, don't you?
That was
That
pretty.
and-
That wasn't good.
And yeah, I know, I liked it. I liked that.
It's funny, but it was bad.
No, it was good. It was good. It was good.
That might be the title of the episode.
Yeah.
There is saltiness of the salt world. I like it. So there are from what I've seen, every platform of social media has its pros and cons, right? Instagram is that instant reel picture, looks cool, like, move on, scroll.
Yep.
That's Instagram. So while you could get what seems like the most traction from Instagram, you actually get the least amount of people that actually call and book a trip, or, it's just mindless, like, hey, cool, man, nice fish, and that's it. TikTok, I'm not on TikTok. That's a personal decision. I can't do it. That's too many. I had it on my phone, and it's like, hey, that's nice. That's nice. That's nice. Why is this on my feed? Why is this on my feed? Like, oh God. So just enough of it. You get rid of it, and it's gone. But Facebook to me, and I use it, and I have it.
Yep.
It is the bottom of the barrel.
I'll tell you what I call it, and I've called it a bunch of times on the show. Facebook is the cesspool of the internet world.
Yes.
And here's why. Now, this is going to be a very controversial statement, and I'm going to make it, and I stand behind it 100%. I believe in the First Amendment, but I also believe in the Second Amendment. Some people shouldn't talk. Just because it's your right to speak, you shouldn't speak. Prime example, Germany, 1938. Some people just shouldn't have a microphone. You should shut them up somehow, like, stop talking. You need to quit. But, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe that this is a great country. I believe we're very young as a country. And because we're young, we make a lot of mistakes as a country. But we do a lot of good things too. You're talking about, we look at, and this is a very brief thing I want to talk about. We look at the world like this from America.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we only have 200 to 400 years of real experience in the world as Americans, while the rest of the world is thousands of years old. So the things that we find repulsive about ourselves or about our past were already happening for thousands of years in other places. So the difference is we learned from them very quickly, and we no longer do them as a country. Why we continue to pretend like it actually goes on is kind of ridiculous. So that's just my opinion. But anyway, off the soapbox for a second. Facebook. Facebook is the place where anyone with a grudge can be heard, and they can be loud, and they can seem like the majority, when in all actuality, they are a very tiny minority of people who just happen to be the loud ones. There are some pages. I'm sure there are pages for bass fishing. I bet if I went on Facebook right now, I bet I could find Kerr Lake bass fishing. I bet there's a page for it.
You can.
If I went right, exactly. Okay, so if you can think it, it's there. I just recently found out there's like striped bass pages. There's this. I'm like, holy crap! There's all kinds of these pages, and they're all full of the same people bitching about the same stuff, literally over and over and over and over. And what happens is, the people who moderate these pages have learned something that professional wrestling learned many years ago. I'm not a closet professional wrestling fan. I'm a loud and proud WWE fan, like love it, right? I understand the storylines. I understand why they do what they do, and I follow it religiously. I watch Monday Night Raw. I watch Friday Night SmackDown. One day I'll go to WrestleMania live. Like I really love this stuff. But here's what they figured out. Negative attention is attention. It's called heat. And as a good guy, you go out and the crowd cheers. Yay. All the claps are amazing, right? When you're a bad guy and you go out and they boo you and they boo you loud, that's called heat. Heat puts asses in seats. Heat puts merchandise out there. So these Facebook pages run exactly the same way. If you put a page up of a stick and say, argue about this stick, people will actually argue over the stick for you. And it will happen. So
I'm going to do it tonight.
I'm not kidding. Take a picture and go, here's a picture of a stick. Just, I mean, what's the popular thing right now? Chat GPT roasting. Yeah. Like, are you serious? Like, you want to be roasted? When did this become a thing? Like, just go on a Facebook page.
Well, those roasts are nice. Yeah, those roasts are.
Oh no, the AI does a great job at that. So I will say that, but
they're nicer than if I roasted somebody. But yeah,
ask it to say something nice about you. It has trouble doing it. It's kind of loud. So So
especially you.
It's gonna kill it. That's what's gonna end it all. Skynet, dude. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah. So there's a couple of pages. I'm not gonna call them out by name. I would love to, but I think that's a little over the top.
I will say there's at least one of these pages. As Dana doesn't want to call it out, we won't. I'll show you, Trey, so you can join it. It makes me feel way better about the bass world.
Yeah, it's bad. So we've had two things happen over the past year, over the past like 6 months. The first thing is, no, it's been a while now. Let me back up.
Yeah, it's been about a year.
We have two governing bodies over our estuaries and our fisheries here in North Carolina. One is WRC, Wildlife Resources Commission. The other is North Carolina Department of Marine Fisheries, right? Or Division of Marine Fisheries. Why does any state have two separate entities that somehow overlap in certain areas, but they can't seem to get together to do the right thing or the wrong thing or anything? They just have trouble doing things the same way. And it's because of how they were built and what they were designed to do. One was designed to monitor commercial fishing. The other was more designed to just have basic, wildlife overview. So over the past couple of years, they've been doing studies about the decline of speckled trout fishing, or better yet, the impact that more people fishing and commercial fishing has had on speckled trout fishing. And those of us who have fished here for years and kind of understand the process a little of how it works, you get a bunch of years of good fishing and you get a bunch of years of bad fishing. It's all, in my opinion, mostly weather related. We had 7 years without a freeze incident. 7 years. And a freeze incident is when the water temperature falls to a sustainable level over multiple days in which a speckled trout can no longer survive. And it kind of goes into this like just state of, and then they either revive or they die, one or the other. And
they call it cold shock, right?
Cold stun, yeah. So
Cold stun. That's cool.
Yeah, so north of kind of the Pamlico River and north really kind of had a big stun, had a big fish kill. These fish were found floating, some dead, whatever. And between the Division of Marine Fisheries and that stun event, the internet lost its ever-loving mind. Like literally, they would argue things. They argued sizes of fish. It was horrible. It was to the point where, I contemplated, like, I don't even want to post pictures of fish anymore. But then I kind of got annoyed by it all, and then really just started poking the bear. So I came up with this. I came up with this term called average trout guy. Because going on amongst all of this, and it was kind of misconstrued by some people. There's nothing I can do about that. I said the things I said. They took some things the way they took them. It doesn't bother me. I still stand beside what I said, which is I'm just an average trout dude. If a guy goes up there and puts, him and two guys went out and caught fish and the limit was 12, that's as many as you can keep, and they put 12 in a cooler or 12 on the bow and take a picture, why are we shaming that guy? Or we're saying, oh, those aren't big enough, or those are too small, or this, or that. It's like the page no longer exists to celebrate catching a fish. It is now to brag and brag and brag and brag and brag. Right. And shame people. So
shame.
I'm still maturing at 50. I'm still maturing, still trying. I took it as a challenge. You're going to shame people of the size fish they catch or how many they keep. So I just started posting them. Every time I went out, every single charter I had in the fall, I would put a picture up and I would put the trout on the bow and I'd take a picture with the guys and it would say #average trout guy or something along those lines. Like it, and it became what it was is people, I think some people thought I was shaming them and I was getting on their side. Like, no, I'm with you. Hey, I'm completely with you. If you catch 12 trout, keep them. You catch 4 trout, you want to keep them? Great. If you want to put all your fish back, great. As long as people are following the rules, why are we even talking about this? Because those same hundreds and hundreds of people who get on there and bitch about it don't show up to the meetings when it matters. They don't show up to, Morehead City or anywhere they have these meetings when they're talking about this is what we're going to do with your fishery. And, whether it's pre-made up, whether it's already determined by those governing bodies or whatever, I don't think if you're going to have that loud of a voice in it, you should come have a voice in that situation because that's going to affect change. So the drama behind these pages is pretty much driven by two things. You got people who want you to throw everything back, and then you got people who want to keep everything. And both of those people are wrong. You're just, whether you like it or not, if you want to put it, if you're a true conservationist, I mean true, like to your core, like PETA, like you're a true conservationist, you would not go out and try to put a piece of metal in a fish's mouth, period. Right. You would just not do it, right? So I'm not against doing things to try and keep mortality low, right? We don't want to kill a bunch of fish, but it's going to happen. So when you got a guy who goes out and catches a 31-inch trout and that trout dies for whatever reason, whether it got gut hooked, whether it just died from handling it or whether you chose to harvest it. There's nowhere in any of our stuff that says you can't keep that fish, except right now because there's a moratorium, right? So why would we get on there? And I mean, every comment, did you release it? Did you release it? Oh my God, you should have released it. Oh, the DNA needs to be back in the gene pool. Well, at one point, that 31-inch trout was a 12-inch trout.
Yeah, its genes are spread all throughout the estuary.
So it 100% it is. If you don't believe it, go to Weldon, North Carolina right now. Yeah.
That's why the water's so salty.
That's right. That's right. There's the salty behind the salty. So,
you're right. Like, these people, they get online, and I know it sounds like we're sitting here complaining, but like, if you're one of those keyboard warriors and all of a sudden overnight, just because you slept in a Holiday Inn doesn't make you a biologist, or doesn't make you a scientist, or doesn't make you a game warden. I mean, unless you are one of those people that are behind.
Well, then you don't know anything.
Yeah, then apparently you're not really.
According to everybody on the internet, you don't know.
But we see it all the time. Like, why are you keeping 5 14-inch bass? Because that's. Oh, you need to throw those fish back. In fact, and it's funny, Operator Dana, I'm going to call you.
I like it.
And in our world, operators, we're different breeds. And but here's the deal. Pete and I dealt with we'll call her a Doc Karen, and hell, maybe her name was Karen. I don't know. But we see this.
Her name, I think, was probably like.
It's probably like
Harvest Moon or
something ridiculous. Yeah. Don't get her wet after midnight. But anyways, but not only her, but everybody, man, like they had this pure, like, radical ideology. If you keep fish, it's going to deplete the entire population. And then you have those who think, like, if you don't keep fish, like you said, it's going to be completely overpopulated. And those who think you should keep fish are actually more accurate, at least on the freshwater side of the house, right? Like on the bass side. You can over harvest crappie, you can under harvest bass, and you can offset the population to where predator fish are competing over bait fish, that all of a sudden you start stunting the growth because there's not enough bait fish, not enough resources, right? And so overnight, these people become biologists, and they think, well, you know what? I'm just going to shame everybody on the internet. And so, oh, look at that dog. And you guys in the salt world or down there on the coast are dealing with the exact same thing, and it's absolutely amazing to me. And then the worst part about it, and this goes to like the whole politics thing, you can't have a conversation with anybody. It's like, no, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. And it's like, dude, you can change, actively listen to.
And there's a third sect.
Oh yeah, there's a
third sect in the saltwater world, because you have keep fish, don't keep fish, recreational anglers versus commercial.
Oh yeah,
who are fishing,
So now,
for a living. That's what these guys do.
And really,
so now you have this group and this group hating this group, and they're all blaming each other.
So I really feel like we're literally years away from the Hunger Games. Like, it's going to happen at some point because what's the number one way to create chaos? Start division between two groups of people. That's the easiest way to do it. If you don't believe it, just look at politics. Right. So recreational versus commercial. Mm-hmm. Both groups want to keep fish. They don't argue conservation or what's best for the fish. They argue allocation. Who gets to keep what? And until those two groups, until those two, more. I want more. Well, you want more. That's where the flounder thing comes in. It's poundage. How many pounds can we keep? So it's gotten kind of out of hand at this point. I was thinking about it. My wife and I went to Weldon on Sunday and fished with Bud, and we caught like 100 striped bass. Couldn't keep one single fish. You could not keep a striped bass. You couldn't keep a flounder. You can't keep a speckled trout. You can keep one gray trout, and you can keep one redfish. That's it. In this gigantic estuary that we have, which, by the way, is not landlocked. It opens to the sea in various inlets, and those fish aren't just from the sound. There are migratory fish that come in and out, and in the same breath we're going, there's plenty of fish, but there's not enough to go around. I just can't get on board with that at all.
So down there, you guys got a lot more. I feel like down your way, you have a lot more oversight than we do. And I feel like out west.
Well, and you missed the part because there's two governing agencies they have to deal with.
Yeah. That
overlap in certain areas, and so you're absolutely. And they don't talk,
right.
They don't agree, they don't do things.
So it's basically like the Senate in Congress, But you have a lot of oversight down there. Have you ever had a conversation with one of them saying, who did the math? Who did the math? Because
don't get started on that, dude.
Because it sounds very arbitrary. Like you get to keep one fish out of 57 million.
So that's where the big disconnect is. You've got a lot of so the Division of Marine Fisheries has MRIP. It's called MRIP. I wish I was prepared to talk about this with actual facts and data. For you guys who like YouTube, look up a guy named Stephen Brewster. He fishes in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He's actually going to become a politician because of all this, which I don't know if that's good or bad.
I will link his channel down below for anybody that wants to.
Stephen breaks down how they collect their data. Some of the data can be accurate. Some of it, to me, I think is asinine at best. From what I've seen on advanced electronics, you can't catch all those fish. You can't do it. There's even with the fish killed, there's just too many of them. There's just too many of them. I'm not saying
are you talking forward-facing sonar?
I'll get to that. That's just that's just on side scan. So that's just side scan.
1995, here we come.
hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, bro. But
that's right.
But no, I mean, somewhere between throw everything back and keep everything is probably a happy medium. For you've now got, and for the guys I know that work full time in this industry, as far as running charters, to say it hasn't been impacted is a flat out lie, because there are people going to other states now for vacation so they can keep fish. You would think it wouldn't be that petty, but it is that petty. Why can't I keep flounder? Well, I'll go to South Carolina where I can keep flounder. I'll go to Virginia, which is a colder body of water, just geographically because it's further north. They got hit just as hard by the stun, and I don't think that they shut down trout fishing.
They didn't.
So what blows my mind is, those are the things, that's the kindling. That's the little pieces of fuel that are spread all around, and your anglers are angry all the time. Your commercial guys are angry all the time. And then you get this retarded ass Facebook page where everybody gets to throw sparks and then it suddenly explodes. And I mean, when these guys, it turns into the ugliest form of humanity that you can possibly ever think of. Guys actually threatening to, well, if I see you on the water, I'll do such and such. Well, why? Over a fish? Like, are you serious right now? You guys are going to go have a fight at a ramp because you said that fish was 27 inches and you said it doesn't look like it's 27 inches. Who cares? I don't care. No one really cares. They're just bored and they're scrolling, and that, like, all of this negativity, man, it just drags all of it down, and it almost makes you like, I don't even want to be a part of this anymore. So it's tragic at best, but I think there's an underlying reason, and the underlying reason will always go back to what we've seen marine fisheries do. They've mismanaged our resource. That is the nicest way I can say it. You have mismanaged our resource to the point that now I used to, as a kid, I could go out and on frozen shrimp and a double drop rig with a 1 ounce egg sinker, go sit at Dawson's Creek and catch all the drum I could possibly think of catching. I mean, tons of them. Now you can't. If you want to get into the why, go follow Stephen Brewster's YouTube page. He will explain a lot of it. And whether you agree or disagree, he focuses a lot on shrimp trawling in the Sound. And I've always said, because those nets drag bottom, the commercial guys tell you that stirring up the bottom's good. I don't necessarily think that's the case, because nature does a good job of that all on her own.
Yeah, it's called wind and current and all the
exactly.
things. Hurricanes.
So for me, and I said this phrase a while back and it sticks in my head. You can't expect the fishery to produce more fish if you consistently scrape the wound. You just can't do it. So I don't know
picking
what
the scab, bro. It's never gonna heal.
Never gonna heal. Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is, but that right there is the crux of these pages. And these pages, the drama is there. Yeah, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of, mine's bigger than yours, haha, whatever. But that all relates. There's that little thing down at the bottom that created it, and that's the division between the rec guy and the commercial guy. I have nothing against the commercial guy. If he is following the rules and he's doing what he's supposed to, and that's how he makes a living, that's awesome. No problem with you whatsoever. If you go break the rules, well, then you're a jerk, just like the recreational guy, and they're out there. Pete, as a matter of fact, when I took you guys trout fishing in the Trent River, there was a guy who had a cooler full of 20-inch trout.
Yep.
Full, a cooler, a nice size, like 60 quart cooler, full. Full means at least 15 to 20, and he was by himself. What's the point? I'm not saying you can't keep 4. You want to keep 4, but or whatever the limit is. But if there's 5 guys on the boat, you want to keep 16, 20, that's fine. But when you're out there, that guy is no better than the commercial guy who goes out and sets a net, catch 75, sells them, and then goes catches 75 more when he knows he's not supposed to, or sets his net where he's not supposed to, or whatever. So those are the people who bring it down for everybody else.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think it's all jacked up. I think the numbers are wrong. I think the way they collect data is wrong. I know at one point the way that the data collection works, this is kind of I got an inside track on this. I'm not going to divulge my source because that would be wrong. But I know at one point they said that there were more striped bass harvested in the Neuse River than could possibly exist. So how does that work? You caught more fish than existed. That doesn't work for me. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how that math works out. I did want to ask you this. Maybe a very harsh thing to say. Pete and I kind of talked about it here with bass, with our lakes here. We were talking about maybe they need to take a couple years off or a year off of letting people pressure these water systems, right? And I know that they're just bass and stuff like that, but and I'm not saying that about recreational or charter deals down in the Sound and out on the coast, but do you feel like commercial fishing maybe needs to take a break?
I think that's a double-edged sword.
Sure.
I will, and I don't like to be lukewarm on any topic. I always like to kind of stand my ground on something, but I think there's an argument for it, and I think there's an argument against it.
Sure.
I think both sides have good points, and I think both sides have valid points. But what I do know is there is no way we are feeding the entire nation from the Pamlico Sound. We're not doing it. It's impossible. So we're not doing it. So why should we try? Why should we allow it? At the same time, I can't advocate for allocation and say it should all go to one side or the other, because that to me is not fair as well. So, in all fairness, shut the whole damn thing down. How about that? How about we take 2 years, no one keeps a thing? Like, what happens then? Now, obviously, that would really, really adversely affect the economy here in Eastern North Carolina. The tackle shops would fail. I don't want that to happen. But that's the thing, is like, there's obviously a level where we've reached where we want to do the right thing, but we kind of want to keep fish too. Like, I want to do the right thing, but I want to keep fish. Well, we got to figure out what that is. If it is shutting it down, then shut it down. If it's at such a tipping point, if the tipping point is so bad that you have one day look at American red snapper. You have 2 days in a whole year to go out and catch them. I can't go to a reef in Eastern North Carolina off this coast and not find them. They're all over the place. So now you're talking about governing bodies on a federal level that have nothing to do with North Carolina, but because it's a federally managed thing on the Atlantic coast, you can't keep those fish, where maybe it's a problem in Florida, but not in North Carolina. But what happens if you shut it down in Florida? They come up to North Carolina, the commercial guys are offshore, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what the answer is, man. I know that we've got to figure out what we're going to do as a species to not only keep feeding one another. I mean, now you're talking about a global problem. Now you're talking about something that, the movie Interstellar with the corn, and everybody was eating corn. And I don't want to eat corn all the time. I don't want to do it. So, I don't know what the answer is, but, I think we got enough smart people in the world to figure it out.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you're not one of those people that are trying to figure out, stay off of Facebook and shut the hell up. Like, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Man, there's on the fishing side of the house, just like anything else, man, like, these fish can be grown. They are grown in hatcheries and stuff like that. And a lot of these fish are shipped over to different vendors and stuff like that to be sold. And I know you guys down on the coast are different because you get like daily catches and stuff like that. But I don't think there is a right answer. I think there's just like better and worse ones. But the problem, it goes back to like what Pete was talking about. Like, unfortunately, all the major stakeholders don't ever come to the same table. They don't ever create a shared understanding. There's no transparency. It's like, this is my data. Nope, this is my data. I'm right. You're wrong. So even those guys are just like those Facebook pages you're talking about too. Everyone's got an ego. They want to be like, I'm right, you're wrong type deal. And so nothing really ever gets solved. And, we've had biologists in here for North Carolina talk about, anglers are some of the best reconnaissance guys that we got. They usually know the fisheries better a year or two ahead. Freshwater, at least. I don't know on the salt side, but freshwater, at least, like, we kind of understand what's going on with the fisheries a year in advance, if not longer than the biologists do. Right.
Yeah. And that comes from, when I said before about a charter guy, spend 5 years on the water a lot and you'll see all these changes, that's what we're talking about. You can notice that, hey, the water's warmed up a little earlier, or we had a lot stronger southwest winds in the month of April than we've had previous years. So the water's been kind of low. So the trout kind of just vamoosed and went here or there, or out in the main river, or out of the creek, or whatever the situation is. Your Division of Marine Fisheries are guys who don't fish.
Yeah.
They're not out there. They don't see what's going on. They don't understand that, while they think their data shows this, the truth is there's a lot more fish than what they think. And I believe that. Mm-hmm. And I believe that simply because I've seen it. I don't even know how to explain. And it goes back to the shaming thing, a guy who keeps a 30-inch trout. And then we have a freeze and then a lot of 25 to 30 inch trout die, and it's like, well, good job releasing those, buddy. Like, I mean, there's a lot more fish than what anybody knows, and it's because we're out there all the time, seeing these fish, seeing these conditions, seeing what goes on. And I mean, there's still stuff we can't explain. We're not biologists, but I can tell you when the river looks bad, and I can go, oh yeah, this ain't gonna be a good year, or hey, but this might actually be a good season. So I agree with you. Yeah.
So we've been going for about an hour and 20 here. I did want to ask this question, and then I'll turn it over to Pete.
All right.
We talked about social media negativity. We talked about, different laws and regulations, creel limits, things like that. How much has technology, you talked a little bit about it, side scan. How much has technology with like forward facing sonar and things like that, how much has that created positivity, negativity, neutrality in the game that you're playing down there on the coast?
I'm not a big tournament fisherman. If you want to be successful in a tournament, don't put me on your boat. It's not going to happen. Now, if you want to win, you want to put a tournament bag together the day before, I'm your guy. Let's go. We will
call those practice.
Yeah, we can always win at practice.
Yeah, I need a participation trophy because I'm not great at tournaments, but I also don't fish them enough to become a tournament-minded person. Matter of fact, the only tournament I really take part in is the one that I put on for my dear friend that passed away, Todd Willis. We do an annual tournament, and 40 to 50 boats, and it's a lot of fun. It's very simple. We have a simple format, and I think that's what's made it successful. So as far as chartering and guiding, I don't think there's any kind of ambiguity about electronics. Like, nobody really cares. We use them.
Nobody cares.
I use them. Yeah, I mean, especially the guys near shore, you got it. They have their spots, and you got some kind of old school guys that know where they should be in certain times of year, but they still have down scan or some sort of look down device that lets them know, even just the little marks on the screen, hey, there's fish here somewhere in this cone of area behind the boat. Now I do know that a lot of I can't believe I'm gonna say this out loud. There's a lot of guys in Eastern North Carolina that couldn't read forward-facing sonar if they tried. They don't understand what they're looking at. How many times have
there's a lot of guys in Central North Carolina that can't read it?
I think people just don't understand what it is. So here's my leg up on the competition on that. Sonar means sound, navigation, and ranging. Sonar was not created to look at fish. It was created to detect anomalies underwater so that we could navigate in and out of channels, and so submarines can go do their thing, right? That literally is what it stands for: sound, navigation, and ranging. Radar is radio detection and ranging. Radar and sonar are literally identical in the way that they display what it sees. I worked on fire control systems, which are self-defense systems for the ship, which use radar. So how a plane looks on radar is how a fish looks on sonar, specifically perspective mode on a forward-facing sonar. It literally looks like a radar screen. So I'm a big proponent of whatever puts me a leg up on everything else, I'm going to put it on the boat. If you said all the way down to, and Pete knows it, there is always a Little Debbie on my boat. That is a piece of technology that I have to have for me to be successful. I've got to have it. So side scan came with my Sea Hunt. It was part of the package that came with Garmin. But recently I've upgraded to a better transducer, and I can't say enough about it. It's absolutely amazing. But once you identify what fish look like on either side scan, down scan, or perspective mode, or even just forward facing sonar. You cannot unsee it. You always see it, to the point where you almost see it too much. Like, ooh, I think that's a fish. Oh. That's where it can be detrimental. And I know that there's guys in the bass world, because I've watched enough videos on it, where they're dangling that lure and watching the fish, and we're not that complicated into it yet. I don't know that I would do that, because I do know I've got some friends who have had it for a few years, and their opinion was it'll put you on a school of fish, but it can't make them bite. And that's
fact.
true. So,
That's
and
a fact.
especially when speckled trout get lockjaw, redfish on flats, when they don't want to bite, you can't make them just because you can see them. And they will sit right there and just make you look like a fool. So,
Yeah.
For me, the biggest part about electronics is, in the salt world, it does identify where fish are, but it mostly identifies to me those secondary ledges where you've got a flat that drops off into deeper water. Where's the bait hanging out in respect to that? How far off each side are these fish? Am I too close? Am I too far away? And I've only had forward-facing sonar on my boat for about a month. I've used it 3 times now.
Okay.
Before that, and there's a video that Elevate put out, and I was talking about the Eagle Eye 9, which is a very simple one beam, single beam forward-facing sonar. And Ashley King had it put on his boat. We were striper fishing. The bite died all of a sudden. He whipped that thing around and went, "Oh, throw over there." And I threw over there and immediately got hooked up. I was sold right then. Like, I got to have it on my boat. But I already have Garmin units on the boat, so we went all in. I've got an EchoMap 9 up on the front now with, live optics and or live scan, and I really haven't used the forward-facing deep wedge as much as I've used perspective, because right now, this time of year, I'm looking on these flats where these large trout like to hang out. And it does work. But I'll tell you my first experience with the perspective mode. 2.5 weeks ago, I hadn't been out on the water in a while. I've had this damn system on my boat for, month, 2 months, however long I've had it, and I've been too busy to go fishing. So I cruise out to this creek that I know, and there should be large trout there. And I'm, I put the trolling motor down. It's got my transducer mounted on it. And I'm just kind of meandering along with this thing in perspective mode. And for guys who don't know what we're talking about, if this is the screen, this much of it, this whole bottom half, or this whole section, is like looking top down at the water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's out like this, and it's just illuminating the water. And the best way I can describe it is, if you walked into a dark room and shone a flashlight, you would see
exactly what it is.
You would see each individual object. So now this is one large floodlight that just illuminates everything. So I'm watching gar swim, and then I see mullet jump, and then the mullet, and there's a school of them over there. I hear some pogies flip. I see the school of pogies over there. And then I hear the distinct sound of a speckled trout slurping something on top water. And I went and I looked over. I was like, "Oh, I know what that is." So I stopped the trolling motor, put my power poles down, and I turned the perspective mode in the direction of where I thought that fish was. And I'm not kidding you. You could see the bank going across the screen like this. And about 2 inches off the bank was this little football shape doing its thing like this, just sitting there. And I was like, "That's a fish." I was like, "Okay, all right." So now I'm not going to stare at the screen while I fish. I just identified that fish is over there. What I heard, I'm not crazy. So I see it. Threw it top water. She missed the first time. Threw it again. She missed again. I said, "Okay, all right. We're going to play that game." I put the top water down. I grabbed a 7-inch Nessie, and I threw it up almost onto the dirt, and then started walking it. And I have the Nessie, by the way, is the greatest large trout bait in the world.
You talking about the Berkeley Nessie?
Berkeley Nessie, bro. It is.
John Cox would be proud.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, there's an art to fishing it. You can't just pick it up and instantly catch a trout. You've got to learn how to work this bait. But once you figure it out, I threw that Nessie over there, and I mean, I didn't move it 4 feet, and she hammered it. And just like it should be, right in the corner of the mouth, big old treble right there. I'm by myself. So the first day I use forward-facing sonar, I catch a 5-pound, 25-inch speckled trout that I saw on it and threw to it and caught it. And I'm like, I literally, like, I've been out on the water for an hour, 1 hour, and I called my wife. I'm like, mission accomplished. Like, I can go home right now. This is exactly what I wanted to do today. And she's like, well, are you coming home? I'm like, hell no, I'm going to find another one. So, but anyway, but no, if you sit and stare at it all day, you know, in my world, you're really kind of messing up, you know, but there's a time for it and a time not to use it. And like right now in these transitional times when there's individual fish out there, it's not as useful, I don't think. I just happen to be in the right place at the right time where the big trout are going to be.
Yeah.
And I just happened to identify one on there. Now that day I identified 3 separate large fish. I had 6 bites total and caught one. So to me, that was a successful trip. Now come the fall and winter, when they all group up into schools, into areas that are a lot deeper, and I can actually use the forward facing sonar portion of it, that's going to get super interesting because I've got some spots that are, you know, these fish like to huddle down in 9, 10, 12 foot of water. That's going to be when it gets really, really interesting. So.
Yeah.
You know, I'll end with this, and I'll turn it over to Pete. I appreciate you breaking that down. The fact that you used all of your other senses and experience and intuition combined with that piece of technology. I think a lot of people have this misconception that you can just take the sonar unit out there and you can just catch the target species you're going after. And while that may be relatively true to certain species of fish, let's use a dumb fish like a crappie, right? You can hit a brush pile. If there's 100 crappie over the top of it, you're probably going to catch crappie. And that's really where the big issue with the technology is, at least, is if you're over harvesting, and that's breaking the law, by the way. But if you're targeting fish and they just don't have a chance, maybe a different story may affect your fishery. But if you're doing what you need to do and using all those other senses that you're talking about, all that piece of technology is it's an enabler to your fishing ability, right? So I think it's important to talk about, because a lot of people think it's cheating. A lot of people think it's if you're not adapting to the times, like you're a dinosaur. I think it's a combination of all the above. And I use the technology. Pete uses the technology. It sounds like you're starting to use the technology, but it definitely doesn't make the fish jump in the boat. You still need to understand seasonal patterns, wind effects, all these other things that are going on. And I appreciate you breaking that down. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to Pete. Pete, what you got, brother?
No, I don't have anything. You covered everything that I had in mind. Talking about just the negativity and the cesspool that is Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much controversy around technology, dude.
Yeah, technology.
One thing,
all from social media to.
Yeah, one thing I definitely want to point out is, if you scroll past the first 5 or 10 jerks, you'll find people that really just enjoy fishing and they celebrate one another and they celebrate each other. I like to see my friends doing well. I like to see strangers doing well. I get excited when I see a guy who's like my personal best and it's a 2-pound trout. Why am I going to shame that guy? That's his personal best.
Yep.
He's probably got a smoking hot wife at home while you're at home with a 4. So, whatever, like celebrate your win the way you want to celebrate. That guy's winning at life right now. Why are you messing with him? Yeah. So, no, but ultimately I think we can let the negativity really wear on us. And I think if we take that perspective of, I'm not going to let this bother me, I'm not going to let it bring me down. obviously that's easier said than done, and we're all guilty, we're all guilty of that. But I think there's a lot more positivity out there. So if you find yourself like I did, caught up in the negativity, it's freeing when you let it go. It's freeing when you say, you know what, I'm better than this. I'm over this. I'm not going to worry about this. So there's a lot of people who do celebrate each other. And I encourage you to scroll past the crap and get to the people that are like, hey man, great job. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any other questions, Dana. I know we're going to get you back on, and I know when we get done here, we're going to talk about coming on your show. We had talked about it before. So just take an opportunity here to let people know where they can find you. I know you're not running a lot of trips right now, but where people can at least follow along with what you have going on. And then when you get back to running trips, where they can reach you, and then any companies, because much like us in tournament fishing and podcasting, we can't do it without companies that support us and give us discounts or provide us with gear to test and things like that. So just make sure you shout all those folks out as well.
Yeah, man. I will say that the irony is the first company to back me is probably one of the biggest trout companies out there, and that's Mirror. So to the guys from LNS, Eric, David, thank you guys so much for everything you've done for me. I don't know how I became affiliated with the people that I have, but I've been blessed to do so. Kale and Kyle down with Florida Fishing Products. If you haven't fished their reels yet, you really need to. Those guys are trying to put the right product in the right hands. And it's done in a way that even the little guy gets attention, which is why I love those guys. Cashin, obviously, I probably wouldn't have the platform I have without Cashin. And their new rod series was so good they sold out of them. So sorry guys, we'll try to get some more out there to you. And then there's a lot more others out there. News River Bait and Tackle, when they were open, when Todd was here, he was one of the first guys in the business that backed me and said, you can do this. I've got you, so thank you to him, and his family. I know you're in heaven, brother, but I know you're watching and I know you're proud. And then of course, all the guys that are part of my group, I love you guys. I couldn't have this success without you. We surpassed 15,000 streams this year for Reel to Reel Fishing podcast. So I'm just looking forward to the next level. And wherever it ends up. So, lastly, Stephen Hamilton with Backwater Bandits. That dude, he wants to create a bait that a trout fisherman can catch fish on. And I think he's done it. And I wish him nothing but success. So, and then of course, guys like you that I meet, man, you're just average bass guys, dude. That's all you are. Just average bass
Exactly.
guys,
Oh, that's going to be my new hashtag.
Yeah.
Average bass guy.
ABS.
You got the average trout guy, the average bass guys.
Dana, listen, full disclosure, before the three of us came together and decided on the name, like TheOneCast, right? Like we were talking about the average angler.
It was average angler podcast.
Average angler podcast. We all fish. We all love the outdoors. We have so much respect for the resources that are provided to us. We don't give a crap about bragging or clout or anything like that. We're not afraid to fish a bass tournament and kick your teeth in either. But at the end of the day, we're going to shake your hand, give you a bro hug, and drink a beer with you.
I'm also not afraid to donate money to get
my teeth kicked in. I'm also not afraid to donate money to guys that were here when the lakes were filled in and they're dragging a Carolina rig and they're going to whoop your butt. We love it, man. We love every aspect of it. Adversity is the narrative for the 2025 season for Pete and I. We love it. We want those challenges. But we also want to connect with guys like you and those that you mentioned, that circle of guys and gals that just continue to build this community because there is a lot of positivity and it's our duty through podcasting, reel to reel fishing is what you called it, right?
Yes. Yep.
Through your podcast, through all of these media platforms is to spread that message of positivity, because the AI algorithms are going to capture the negativity. We got to manually control positivity in this game.
That's right.
And it's through guys like you and your network and our network. We're going to continue spreading that positivity.
Yeah, man. One last shout out, because obviously it's on my chest, it's on my hat. Mikhail Lerma from Mission, Texas. This brand, Truchador and Company. This dude lives, breathes, and loves speckled trout fishing. He respects the resource, but he also eats fish, and that's why I respect him so much. And I'm not sponsored by Truchador. I buy 99% of what I wear. He's given me some things along the way, but there is a mutual respect there. I've had him on the podcast. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it on, I'm on Spotify, Apple, all those. The guy is just salt of the earth, South Texas, real guy. So if you're a speckled trout fisherman and you're looking for a brand to get behind, Truchador and Company is it, man, without a doubt.
Appreciate it. Well, Captain Dana, make sure you hold on just a minute. We're going to end this episode. And for all the listeners and watchers out there, make sure you guys head on over to Reel Fishing and check out Captain Dana's podcast and learn a little bit more about that salt life, which we don't bring you a lot of. And we appreciate you being the first one that we had on the show and breaking down all the positivity and a little bit of the fun drama stuff. It's a little fun sometimes, but we appreciate it. Pete, you got anything?
I'm good, bro.
All right, Captain Dana, hang out just for a minute, man. We appreciate all those kind words of positivity, and you are definitely somebody that we want to keep in our circle to help us continue building a culture of anglers helping anglers, one cast at a time.